Alright. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Shock and Schlock. I'm your host, Herschel Gillis. I'm joined once again today by a very special guest, director Addison Binek, director of Psycho Ape, Magnum Opus, and Psycho Ape 2, as well as movies to watch on a rainy afternoon. How's it going?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, good. Yeah, it's nice to have you back on. I think this is the fourth time now, so yeah, definitely a
Wow.
frequenter.
Yeah, yeah.
So, super cool. So, Psycho Ape 2, that's what we're here to talk about today.
hmm
Definitely, I got a chance to watch it, really enjoyed it quite a bit here. So first off, walk me through the process of coming up with Psycho Ape 2 because it seems very different than the first one in almost every way.
That was the idea. I mean, people have basically been badgering us for a sequel ever since we finished the first one. But I just didn't think doing one right away was the right way to go because, these movies, you have to let them exist for a little while before you just start shoving sequels down people's throats, I mean, yeah, okay, so like let's say we had 100 people who liked the first one. Like that's good, but I mean, since the first one came out, it's gotten views on Amazon Prime, Night Flight Plus. I've sold 1,000 DVDs at various conventions like Cinema Wasteland and Days of the Dead and Horror Hound. It's screened theatrically all over the place, like in Chicago and Florida and Ohio and Pittsburgh. So I just, without all of that, we wouldn't have been able to raise the $14,000 for part two. But so I was the one who was kind of just like hesitant to do one for a while because I just kind of thought like let the audience build first so
Hmm.
that we can do more. Like I don't want to make the same movie again because that's boring. So my approach was basically like, let's do kind of what like Joe Dante did with Gremlins, where Gremlins 2 is more of a meta parody of Gremlins 1. Um, and let's like do that approach where like you can watch Gremlins around Christmas time. It's a Christmas horror movie, creature feature, and then Gremlins 2 is an anytime movie. You can watch
Hmm.
it whenever you want to, have some goofy cartoony laughs. And so that's what I kind of wanted to do with Psycho Ape 2 was have it be totally different than the first one. I mean, still keep the same sort of idea of it's a bunch of parodies, but let's not just have like 30 people getting killed with bananas and having Dr. Zoomis chase the ape and Nancy around because we did all that. Why would we just make the same movie again? So I just wanted to, step it up, have it look more polished, have it look more expensive because,
Hmm.
we doubled the budget of the first one. The first one cost $7,500 and the second one cost 14,000.
Hmm.
So we shot it in 4K as opposed to mini DV tape, and we went to Los Angeles this time and just kind of ran around Hollywood making this crazy Psycho Ape movie. It does have less of a tangible plot than the first
Yeah.
movie. Like, you can't really follow it.
Hmm.
And that's just because we shot it in 9 days. I mean, we did have like a bullet pointed outline, but when you're shooting a movie in 9 days, I mean, you got to rip pages out because you're losing time, you're losing people. People, we paid people, a certain amount of money, but not everybody is there to just sit there and make this movie. They have to go do other things. They have their
Yeah.
day jobs, they have other
Hmm.
things to do. So we can't expect them to just sit there and wait around for us to just shoot this movie. Um, but so things just kind of, story stuff did kind of get lost. And that's why the movie sort of breaks the fourth wall a bunch of times to sort of explain to the viewer what's supposed to be going on
Hmm.
because we just didn't film certain things that were scripted. It just didn't happen. So in a kind of a comedic way, we were like, well, let's address these problems in a funny way, sort of satirizing ourselves. Because the second one is a parody of the first movie. It's a parody of itself, of the making
Hmm.
of itself. And it sort of makes fun of everybody. It makes fun of, Bill Whedon. It makes fun of Kansas. It makes fun of us, the filmmakers, for not really you know, making a movie that makes any sense. And so it's like a spinning top, or it's like the Tasmanian Devil, where it's just going, 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 and not a lot of it makes a whole lot of sense. And so we realized that when we had the first cut, we were like, "There's a lot of
Hmm.
stuff missing." we should really try to explain what we were like, what the intentions were,
Yeah.
but in a funny way. Like, let's just make fun of the fact that there's like all this information that's missing, and just sort of embrace the absurdity of, yeah, you guys wanted this sequel, you paid for it, so let's just make the craziest, weirdest version of what we think Psycho Ape fans might want, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, and it was really funny. The jump back into like time back and forth and like all the time cards and stuff, I thought were really like a good touch on that, like talking about the
Yeah.
absurdity of it, keep jumping back. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, there's certain parts where it says like 25 years sooner, 25 years later. At one point, it just says the number 25, which might
Hmm.
be an error. I don't know. But I think it's funny. Like, I didn't say
Yeah.
it because, my partner who I make these movies with, Greg DeLiso, he and I write these movies together. We direct them together, but he is the cinematographer and the editor. But he lives in Los Angeles and I live in Michigan. So
Hmm.
he basically took 10 and a half hours of footage and chopped it down to a 66-minute long movie. So I didn't get to see all of the rough dailies or anything like that. I just kind of trust, that he plucked out the funniest moments from just the footage.
Yeah.
But, you know, when he would send me rough cuts and things, I would give notes and he would, change stuff. But there's certain things that he did on his own and I just didn't question them because I thought they were funny. Or if they
Hmm.
were like a mistake or a blooper, I just didn't want him to fix it because it's just like leave it alone.
Hmm.
Because if you hyper fixate on something for too long, then you kind of like ruin like how it's like so genuine, like a genuine blooper, I think is way funnier than trying to make something like funny on purpose.
Yeah.
Like you
Hmm.
can you can tell when someone's like straining to make a line work or to make something funny if they just like fucked up or whatever, and we just keep that part. That's the best
Yeah.
part.
Hmm. Yeah, that was super funny, and a lot of this felt very collaborative. Would you agree with that? Like, it felt like I know we spoke briefly at Days of the Dead about Bill sort of throwing in his own ideas a couple of times there with like the Titanic scene where he's insistent on being nude in that and everything. So how collaborative was this one over the first one?
I mean, I'd say they were probably equally collaborate. It was equal collaborations because
Hmm.
the main difference was that the first one was done kind of over the course of a year and a half because of COVID, and we would get together every Thursday, Greg and I and the ape, and we would just shoot scenes like kill scenes, the ape walking around, the ape doing stuff, and then we filmed with Bill in Kansas for like I don't know 8 or 9 days, the New
Hmm.
York stuff, and just the main stuff with them. But then we kept shooting additional stuff even after we filmed with them. So the first movie was really done like piecemeal, just kind of putting it together like a puzzle over a year and a half. This was shot in 9 days, and then Greg did some additional shooting without me.
Hmm.
But I would say that like they're equally, collaborative, but we did take a lot of suggestions from people in this one. Definitely, like Bill wanted to be naked in the movie, and we said sure. But I just didn't want it to be like gratuitous for the sake
Hmm.
of gratuity, and so I thought like okay, let's the Psycho Ape movies are parody movies, so let's do it in like a parody scene. What's a funny parody scene where he can like be naked? And of
Hmm.
course, Titanic. I mean, that's the only reason why it's Titanic is because like that's sort of the most iconic like nude scene in a movie.
Hmm. Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
you look in that scene, because we filmed that in my Airbnb where I was staying in LA, you can see a television kind of behind like Bill when he's undressing and everything.
Hmm.
Um, Netflix had just put Titanic onto its streaming service. So we turned Titanic on and we watched it shot by shot and listened to it line by line while we were shooting our scene for Psycho Ape 2. So the framing is the same, the shots are the same, the dialogue is the same. Because, like I said, we would turn the TV back on, watch what came next, watch what the next shot was, shoot that, and then just that's just how we did the scene,
Hmm.
which was just crazy. That was just luck that Netflix had just like
Yeah.
uploaded it.
Yeah, and that was ended up, I mean, that's one of the most memorable scenes I would say in the movie. It's super funny. And a lot of this one feels almost like a road movie in a couple of ways, like
Mhm.
shooting with Bill towards the end, with getting the ear pierced and stuff. How did that come about? Was that like a conscious decision before you started making the movie, or did that come
Yeah.
along when you started shooting?
I definitely wanted it to feel kind of like a 70s road movie or like a 70s hangout movie.
Hmm.
Because again, I wanted to do like Gremlins 2, sort of like meta bonkers crazy, but also I really like movies like that where they just have that sort of spirit of we're gonna slow things down for a little bit and we're just gonna chill. We're just gonna chill with these characters. We're just gonna hang out with them because that's what people want, right? Like they want to
Hmm.
spend time with these people. Um, People who are watching Psycho Ape movies, I don't think they give a shit about plot or, story. They just want to see
Hmm.
crazy stuff and they want to see these people performing crazy things. So we just decided, like, let's give them what they want. Let's have an ear piercing scene. Let's
Hmm.
have them get caricatures drawn. Let's have them hang out and form together like puzzles out of the trading cards. And let's
Hmm.
have them do like a QVC style, like commercial parody because there's like that whole chunk is like 16 minutes long where the
Hmm.
movie just comes to a screeching halt and we just hang out with those characters for 16 minutes before we go back into the film and it becomes like the Temple of Doom parody scene. Um, some people might get bored during that 16-minute chunk. I don't know. But that was intentional. We definitely wanted to do that, especially the fact that it was like California. So we
Hmm.
wanted to take advantage of like where we were. I mean, we didn't even go everywhere that we wanted to go. That was what we could do in 9 days.
Hmm. Yeah, I thought the QVC part especially was super funny. Like the mid movie ad for like the Psycho Ape merch and everything. I
Yeah, and
feel like that would be egregious in some movies, but it was really funny in this.
yeah, because it's like obviously it's a parody of Spaceballs, but
Hmm.
Spaceballs is already a parody of Star Wars. So it is like a parody of a parody movie. So it's nuts. That's just
Yeah.
kind of the tone of this movie. It's just we are a parody movie that parodies like parody movies.
Hmm. And with that, I know parody movies were like a big influence on this, and you also like parody a lot of other stuff like Reservoir Dogs is in there,
Mhm.
Titanic was in there. What would you say some of the biggest influences film-wise were on this film?
Well, I mean, Dark Knight was sort of one of the first
Hmm.
ideas that I came up with when we were like thinking of even doing a sequel, and I thought of that like 2 or 3 years ago because I was just like, okay, if we're gonna do a sequel, let's have the opening scene be big. Let's do a big thing, a big memorable parody of a big memorable sequel that everybody will get like right away. Because as soon as you see the Psycho Ape like standing there and he drops the mask into
Hmm.
the shot, everyone knows what that shot is. That's
Yeah.
the Joker,
Hmm.
everyone knows. And then they get into the car and they drive off. But that was sort of what I wanted to do. I wanted to open the movie with the Dark Knight. I wanted to do a courtroom drama kind of thing where the ape is on trial. That was just kind of the stuff that I wanted to personally try because again, the first movie is like, homage to slasher films and
Hmm.
trauma and wood and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't want to do any of that again. And this time was Dark Knight, courtroom dramas, like parodies of sequels. So Temple of Doom, um, we did Empire Strikes Back. That's a huge part of it. So we just kind of went down this list of like famous sequels and just started check them off. Like
Hmm.
thinking of what are the most iconic scenes from these movies. Well, freezing Han Solo and Carbonite. Like, okay, well, we gotta end the movie with Bill Whedon getting or Dr. Zoomis getting frozen in carbonite and taken off in outer space for absolutely
Hmm.
no reason. So that's just kind of like how the movie was built, I guess. And Psycho 2. Psycho 2 is an integral part. It's the spine of the movie, or it's supposed to be. Where there's a copycat killer trying to frame the ape and get him back into prison. But a lot of that stuff got lost in translation just because it was just so messy.
Yeah.
Sometimes we remembered to put the bow, like the pink bow, on the ape when it's killing because it was supposed to show you that, oh, that's not the same ape, but you really don't even notice it until the very end when the ape's on
Hmm.
trial. But there was supposed to be more. Like that copycat ape was supposed to kill more people with their pink bow, and we didn't get a chance to do it all.
Hmm.
And so the movie kind of is what it is. And you know, but you still get the Psycho 2 references and stuff. Like
Yeah.
the movie even begins with a Psycho shower scene, black and white. You know,
Hmm.
girl gets stabbed to death by a banana, and she's covered in ingredients for a banana splits. And so there's Psycho references in there, but yeah, I mean it's just kind of all hitting all these familiar notes, these famous sequels, but also just again a road movie, but you know just an excuse to go nuts. Just here you guys go. Here's something crazy. You asked for this. We even have it in the opening credits or the opening scroll. Uh Bill even is like, you asked for this, just sort of
Yeah.
like shrugging his shoulders. You guys spoke with your wallets, so here's like a crazy adventure.
Hmm. And yeah, as someone that was a big fan of the first movie, I really enjoyed this one as well. I think I would say I even liked this one more than the first one, but in
I do
general,
too. Yeah.
yeah, it seems much more ambitious for this one as well. And I think even some of the like continuity that you mentioned there, I think it actually adds to the film. A lot of that was really funny. So yeah, I found myself really enjoying this. I know a couple of people that watched it with me enjoyed the second one as well. But what has been like the general response to this one? I know it's fairly early, but what have been
Mhm.
like the fan reactions to this one?
Well, I base a lot of feedback off of what I see on Letterboxd because people aren't afraid to give movies like crappy reviews on
Hmm.
Letterboxd. A lot of people probably don't know that I like comb through Letterboxd looking for reviews, and they all like it. They're all
Yeah.
saying they
Hmm.
really dig it. 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5. I think the lowest I've seen is 3 out of 5 because I think that person was anticipating maybe more boobs, more blood. They wanted, I think, more of what the first one is, and so
Hmm.
I think they weren't ready to have to experience something like altogether different. I don't think they were ready for it. Like maybe if they watch them back to back or give it another chance, they'll see that like it is more ambitious, it is crazier and funnier, and it is just like I don't know. It's not the same movie. Let us do something else.
Hmm.
But I saw the movie. It premiered in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago at a convention called Gross Fest,
Hmm.
and I sat there with 14 other people. Like I counted when the lights went down. There were 14 other people in the room with me, and no one left, which is kind of miraculous because when you go to these conventions and you show your movies, people trickle in and out. They'll give
Hmm.
it like 5 to 10 minutes, and then they'll be sipping on their beer or they're eating a hot dog or a piece of pizza or something, and then they'll just take off because
Yeah.
they gave it
Hmm.
5 to 10 minutes and they're just checking out the convention, seeing what's going on. But usually people don't stay the entire time unless they really are invested or they really wanted to see that movie. And we didn't lose a single person. So that was awesome. And then this guy came up to me after the screening, and he was like, "Hey, I've never been to a horror convention before. I've never been to Gross Fest before, but I was driving by and I saw the signs outside, and so I decided to come in. I surveyed the vendor area and I saw there was a screening room, so I popped in. I watched her movie. I've never seen Psycho Ape 1, but I loved it." He said the
Hmm.
only scene he didn't like was like that Venice Beach sort of prolonged trip to the piercing parlor and caricatures, and he thought that kind of went on for too long, and so I don't blame him. I mean, it does sort of just stop the movie. It becomes
Hmm.
sort of a documentary about just Dr. Zoomis getting his ear pierced for literally no reason. And some people might think that that's funny that the movie just stops to do this. Some people might miss that there's like no narrative. There's nothing going on.
Hmm.
So he didn't like that. But other than that, he still gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and he just had nothing but nice things to say about Psycho Ape 2 and Gross Fest. And he said that he had such a good time watching the movie and like checking out the convention that he might bring some friends next year. So because of Psycho Ape 2, this convention may be getting more attendees in a year. So,
Hmm.
you know, I'll wear that as like a badge of honor. Like, sweet, you know, that movie was that good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like with this sort of before the release of this and after, I've been seeing a lot more of Psycho Ape and, convention ads and everything as well, like the Severance sleepover event and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So how did
Hmm.
those come about? It seems like this one's getting a lot more attention.
I have a friend named Matt who works at Severin. He's always at conventions selling Severin stuff at the
Hmm.
booth. And he's been a very big help getting Psycho Ape out into the world. Um, he has a special like kinship towards gorilla movies
Hmm.
because when he was in his teenage years, he too made a killer gorilla movie called Gorilla, but he
Hmm.
never finished it. So I think he's sort of living out like these fantasies of having finished a killer gorilla movie vicariously through me by shepherding the Psycho Ape series into like screenings and Severin events and all this stuff because he just really digs the concept and he like loves the fact that somebody actually went out there and did it and finished their killer gorilla movie and then made a sequel.
Hmm.
So he's a great guy. And last year he booked Psycho Ape to play with a bunch of movies in the Severin catalog. Like we did a double feature, a triple feature of because they own Killer Crocodile and they
Hmm.
own Wild Beasts. And so we did a triple feature of those two movies and Psycho Ape in Milwaukee. And then like a month later in Chicago, we had a screening of Wild Beasts and Psycho Ape because that was the theme is like animal attack, you know?
Hmm.
And that even though Psycho Ape isn't a Severin title, we put those movies together and he hooked up these screenings. So it was just awesome. And when Psycho Ape 2 was basically in the process of being edited, he booked the movie to play at the Severin sleepover just on faith that it's going to be good. He hasn't
Hmm.
seen it. He refuses to watch it. That's been part of the craziest stuff is that we've been getting the movie's been getting booked to play at certain things, but the people doing the booking they're not watching the movie. They're waiting until the event because they want
Hmm.
to experience it first time with a crowd.
Yeah.
So that's really nuts. You know, like
Hmm.
they just like the first one that much that they're like, yeah, we're just gonna book the sequel, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the Severin Sleepover. Um, you know, it's a bunch of their movies, but then Psycho Ape 2 is going to play, and I'm going to be there. Kansas is going to be there. Heather, the actress who plays Mary Jane in the movie, she's going to be there. And but the guy who booked the movie, Matt, who works at Severin, he's going to wait until it premieres on the big drive-in screen, and he's going to watch it with everybody else for the first time. So that's really awesome.
Yeah,
And
that is
then
really awesome.
no, it's really cool because again, it's like you just like the first one that much that on pure faith that this is gonna be good. Like that's
Hmm.
cool, but it is a different movie. You know, it is a different experience altogether. So hopefully he digs it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm hoping that this one, I mean, with the amount of praise that I've seen for the first one, like over time since we first talked about that and since release, and along with this one, I've been seeing a lot of good reactions to. I'm hoping that this leads to, an even bigger budget for what's coming forward, all that stuff as well. More attention on that. So, um, along with that, well, what's the next step here? Because from Psycho Ape, you went to Magnum Opus and then Psycho Ape 2. So is Psycho Ape 3 down the pipeline, or what's the next plan?
Well, again, I'd sort of like to wait until this one finds its audience and gets sort of a life of its own. Because I mean, the first one gained traction over the course of 3 4 years, finding people to really enjoy the movie. And I don't think we're going to wait 3 4 years, but I'd still like to give it like a year or two because everybody who liked the first one, not all of those people follow me on social media. Not all of those people even know that a part two was made. Some of those people only saw part one on like Amazon Prime, but like don't even know who I am, and like I need to reach those specific people first before we do a
Hmm.
three. It's, hey, that movie that you streams, that one night or whatever, if you liked it, hey, we made another one, and
Hmm.
so the movie has to reach those people who I can't necessarily reach just through social media. It's got to go onto these streaming services, and those people have to find the sequel all over again. Um, so that's gonna be the next like year or two of my life is going to conventions, selling copies to people, getting it on the streaming services, and just sort of shopping it around, and just making sure that if you liked the first one, letting those people know, hey, we have another one. Because
Hmm.
there's no point in doing a third one right out the gate if we're only going to just raise another like 10, 14,000 dollars. The idea here is let's up the ante every time out, but we can't do that unless the franchise grows. The audience has to grow with us in order to bring in more money for bigger movies. We can't just keep going back to the well and asking the same core fans for money every time out. We have to expand. We have to grow. But with events like the Severance Sleepover or, screenings in, like, I have a Texas screening booked at the end of September. I have an Iowa screening booked at the end of October. I have a California screening booked at the end of, or like mid-November. So, this, I'm going to go to all these things and hopefully people are going to come out to these screenings. But, that's how I have to reach an even wider audience. So I can't, I have to wait and do all those things first in order to, make sure that like we have people who are going to participate and donate to a part three, or possibly even find maybe an independent producer who just wants to front the entire budget, or
Hmm.
something like
Yeah.
that. So we don't have to do a Kickstarter. I mean, that would kind of be the idea.
Hmm. Alrighty. Well, yeah, coming to a close here as well. For those who enjoyed Psycho Ape 1 and are wanting to watch the second one, where can we find it? I know you're shipping out pre-orders, but for people who had missed out on that, where can we find it?
Well, yeah, the Psycho Ape 2 Indiegogo is still it's in demand. That's where we made more than what we asked for. So you remain in demand for several months. As long as you continue getting donations, like even one a month is fine. It keeps it active. So people can continue pre-ordering stuff through the Indiegogo, whether it's, DVDs, Blu-rays, um, t-shirts, toys, trading cards, Lunch Meat VHS tapes, because Lunch Meat is going to do a run of Psycho Ape 2 tapes, and they're going to do another run of Psycho Ape 1 tapes. So I'm going to have copies of those that I'm selling through the Indiegogo.
Hmm.
And then all that stuff is also available on eBay. I sell it through my eBay page. So you can find Psycho Ape 2 Blu-rays on eBay, Psycho Ape 1 DVDs on eBay. Um, there's a website called fastcustomshirts.com, and they have shirts for part one and two on there. The sequel shirts, they just dropped like 3 days ago. I don't even have one yet. So excited about that. And I think that's all of it. Because yeah, just all the information for all this stuff too is like on Letterboxd and IMDb. There's trailers on YouTube. We really we're trying even harder now to promote just the hell out of part two's existence, because we want people to know, like, hey, we did it. That
Hmm.
sequel you were asking for, 4 years ago, well, now it exists. We didn't do it 4 years ago because we were waiting to make it. We were waiting for it to be right and to have a proper budget to shoot it in 4K and go out to California and do it like for real. Because just doing it again on tape for no money just didn't seem like. Why would we just do that again? So the third one hopefully would just be maybe a $20,000 movie. I don't know. We'll see. But that will only happen if people support the second one.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, in that matter, I'm going to leave a link to all of that down below in the video description here. So anybody listening, go down there, check out Psycho Ape 2, buy a copy of that, Psycho Ape 1, support Addison. And Addison, as always, I appreciate you coming on. I hope to speak to you again soon for, a fifth time. I like these conversations are always good. Psycho Ape 2 is great. So anybody listening,
Thank
definitely go
you.
check that out too.
Thank you, man.
Alrighty. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Okay.
Yeah, see ya, man.
See ya.
Yep, bye.
Bye.